Welcome to Legacy Updates. Today, August 15th, 2025, we honor 5 Americans whose lives left a mark on music, faith, civic life, and sport. Bobby Whitlock, Sheila Jordan, Thomas P. Costin Jr., Reverend Joseph Darby Jr., and Robbie Brewer. Stay with us for personal stories, rare footage, and the moments that made each life unforgettable. If you appreciate remembering lives well lived, subscribe and ring the bell. Robert Stanley, Bobby Whitlock, the soulful keyboardist, singer-songwriter, and co-founder of Derek and the Dominos, passed away on August 10, 2025 at the age of 77. Born in Memphis in 1948, Whitlock carried the city's deep musical traditions with him into a career that blended soul, gospel, and rock. He first made waves as a young musician around Stax Records, later joining Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, a loose collective that became a crossroads for major players of late 1960s rock and soul. It was there that Whitlock forged the friendships and musical partnerships that led to the formation of Derek and the Dominos with Eric Clapton, Carl Rattle, and Jim Gordon. That short-lived band produced one of rock's most enduring records, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs, 1971, on which Whitlock co-wrote several songs including Bell Bottom Blues and Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad, songs that remained central to the era's emotional canon. Whitlock was more than a single record. He was a storied session musician who contributed to major projects including George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, and he wrote and sang with a warmth that connected gospel roots to bluesy confessionals. After a period away from the spotlight in the late 70s, he returned with solo work and collaborations that showed an artist who never stopped refining his craft. In later years, Whitlock also found another form of expression in painting, building a second creative life that many fans came to appreciate. Colleagues and fans remember him as a collaborator who left a mark on songs and players around him, a player whose keys and voice helped shape some of rock's most intimate moments. His passing leaves a space in the story of American roots rock and soul, but the songs he helped write and perform will keep his voice alive. To listeners and fellow musicians, Bobby Whitlock's legacy is both the records he helped make and the quieter influence he exerted behind the scenes. Sheila Jeannette Jordan, the revered jazz vocalist known for her improvisational gift, intimate voice and bass duets, and decades-long influence on modern jazz, died on August 11, 2025, at the age of 96. Sheila's career was one of steady artistry rather than flash, a musician's musician who carved a singular path in bebop and free jazz. Emerging from Detroit and later moving to New York, she became closely associated with the language of Charlie Parker and the post-bebop vocal tradition. Yet she forged an approach entirely her own, a voice that could thread a line like an instrumentalist, scat with incisive intelligence, and improvise lyrics on the spot as if composing in real time. Her 1963 Blue Note debut, Portrait of Sheila, and later recordings and live performances were touchstones for singers and instrumentalists alike. Beyond records, Sheila's legacy is deeply rooted in teaching and mentorship. She taught for decades. From college residencies to workshops around the world, she set to aping generations of vocalists with a focus on listening, phrasing, and honest storytelling. Her NEA Jazz Master's recognition, one of the field's highest honors, affirmed a lifetime of contribution to the art form. Friends and students often note not only her technical mastery, but her courage. A singer who never watered down her ideas to fit trends, instead trusting the intelligence of the music and her ability to respond in the moment. Listeners remember Sheila for performances that felt like conversations, intimate, wise, and unexpectedly playful. The jazz community's outpouring since her passing has centered on gratitude for a voice that taught people to hear differently, and for a teacher who made the craft feel accessible without ever compromising brilliance. Her voice remains in the recordings, in the students she shaped, and in the many moments when she reminded audiences that the essence of jazz is daring to listen and respond. Thomas P. Costin Jr., a lifelong civic servant who served as Lynn, Massachusetts' youngest mayor, and later as longtime postmaster, died on August 11, 2025, at age 98. Costin's story is quintessentially local and quietly national. Elected to the Lynn City Council as a young man and chosen as mayor in the mid-1950s, he became, at 29, one of the youngest mayors in the city's history. His political career intersected with key moments in mid-century American life. He was a close local ally of John F. Kennedy's political network, helped lead voter registration efforts, and later accepted a federal appointment as Lynn's postmaster under President Kennedy. In that role, he served the community for decades, shepherding postal services through times of change and modernization. Costin was remembered not just for positions held, but for a style of civic engagement that emphasized connection, knowing neighborhood concerns, working across lines to keep services running, and remaining visible to constituents. His name was later honored when the Lynn Post Office building was rededicated, a sign of the lasting ties between his career and the community he served. Those who knew him recall a figure present at civic events, committed to urban improvement and local institutions, and proud of the city's history and potential. For residents of Lynn, his life was a through line across generations, a reminder that local leadership shapes daily life in ways both modest and profound. His death marks the end of a long chapter of public service, but the institutions and civic ties he supported remain part of his legacy. Reverend Joseph Darby Jr., a pastor and civil rights activist in South Carolina, died in early August 2025, shortly after his 74th birthday, a loss that has reverberated through Charleston's faith and justice communities. Darby's ministry mixed pastoral care with grassroots activism. In Charleston and the surrounding region, he was known for speaking up on issues of racial justice, organizing community responses to inequity, and providing spiritual leadership during crises. Those who worked alongside him praise a minister who moved comfortably between the pulpit and the streets, the kind of pastor who could deliver a sermon one day and marshal volunteers for a community project the next. His work connected church traditions to modern movements for fairness and dignity. Reverend Darby's influence extended beyond specific campaigns. He served as a mentor to younger activists, a bridge builder between congregations, and an outspoken advocate for ordinary people whose voices were too often missing and overlooked. The tributes since his death emphasize his moral clarity and personal warmth. He was described as someone who could speak truth to power while making time for pastoral presence, hospital visits, counseling, and quiet counsel that sustained families and leaders alike. In mourning, the community remembers not only the causes he championed, but the human touch he brought to them. For a generation that saw both progress and setbacks, Darby's steadiness became a source of hope. His passing invites reflection on the ongoing work of local justice movements. The fights he joined must continue, grounded in the same combination of spiritual conviction and practical organizing that defined his life. Robbie Brewer, a veteran short-track stock car racer known across regional circuits, died after a medical emergency during a race at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The racing community mourned the sudden loss of a driver respected for his years of competition and his steady presence on short-track rosters. Brewer's career spanned decades on local and regional circuits, where he earned a reputation as a consummate competitor and a driver who loved the sport's grassroots culture. Fans and fellow racers recall his calm under pressure and his knowledge of the close-quarters craft that defines short-track racing: precise car control, tactical passing, and a deep respect for the crews that keep the cars running. He had accumulated hundreds of starts and was known for being a reliable and respectful presence in paddocks that can often be volatile. News of his death prompted immediate tributes from fellow drivers and track officials who praised not only his accomplishments and an ence on the asphalt, but the mentorship he offered younger drivers and the way he carried himself away from the track. The details of the medical emergency remain private as officials work with family, The focus in public statements has been on honoring Brewer's life and offering condolences to his family, friends, and the broader racing community. When short-track racing loses a longtime competitor, it's not just the record books that feel the gap. It's the fabric of local racing culture, the tire smoke memories, the late-night garage conversations, the weekend rituals that form the backbone of motorsport at its most communal level. Robbie Brewer's legacy lives on in those gatherings, in the drivers he inspired, and in the fans who cheered from the grandstands. Thank you for watching this special remembrance on Legacy Updates. If one of these lives moved you, please leave a memory or favorite clip in the comments. Links to obituaries, recordings, and further reading are in the description. If you'd like more tributes like this, hit subscribe and the notification bell. Until next time, remember the moments that matter.